Welcome to Fireteam Chat, IGN's Destiny show. Thank you so much for joining us. Joining me today is Travis.
McClunky.
And Brian Malkowitz.
And CT.
Thank you so much. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Travis's review impressions. We're going to talk about our raid impressions. There's been a lot of conversation about the raid, the next-gen updates that are coming next week, and the game updates that are coming next week, and Season of the Hunt. Travis, your review is out. It's live. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling about Beyond Light at this point?
Yes, so I gave it a 7 out of 10, which is good in IGN. It's not great, which would be an 8, and it's not okay, which would be a 6. It was pretty tough. I entitled my review "The Devil You Snow," which, in addition to being a pun about the location, is also kind of a... Basically, what I'm trying to say is that this is the Destiny that you've known over the years, and that's sort of the problem and also the good thing, right? Like, the good thing is it's more Destiny. We all like Destiny. That's a good thing. But the bad part is that they make some of those same mistakes, some of the same grind issues, the same kind of content lightness that we saw in Shadowkeep, and it's sort of just another chapter in the Destiny saga, both good and bad, was my sort of impression on that. And that applies to, the highlights, like the raid being really stellar and all the stuff that we like there, as well as the detractors, like, having to run strikes a million times and all the stuff that we have already kind of not liked about Destiny in every expansion. So, that's sort of the overview.
Yeah, I tore through everything that the expansion had to offer, did the raid, and I haven't had to touch it for a week. I'm like, I don't really have to do anything else, but I basically no-lifed it. So I think that, I think it's good content for a few months, but I don't know if it'll last the whole season pass, content-wise. We'll see what else they have to offer. Brian, what are your thoughts about this particular expansion and Beyond Light in general?
Honestly, his review is spot on. Like, it's more of what we love, but it's also more of what we love. So it's a love-hate relationship. But I think the biggest thing is that we shouldn't have, having to run the campaign 3 times in order to unlock each subclass and everything behind it was such a drag, because it's just so much to do, because not only are you beating the campaign, but then you got to do the post-campaign stuff in order to unlock the grenades, because the grenades aren't they're not class, or they're class specific, so you have to unlock the same grenades each time, and man, those are rough grinds. So not to be super negative about Beyond Light, because I actually really do enjoy it. It's just that it's those big negatives that really just stick right there on the brain, kind of just hurt.
And we actually haven't joined and talked since the raid launched. Before we dive into that, I was supposed to talk about this numbskull design statue that they sent me 2 weeks ago. And it's the new Drifter statue that they had. They sent it over. I just wanted to comment on it really quick. Thank you to Numbskull Designs for sending this. One of the criticisms when they initially teased it was his face, but they actually fixed it. I was pleasantly surprised to see that it they added a little bit more detail. I'm like, I can't put it closer to the camera, but hey guys, I'm a Drifter statue. But anyway, I like the design of it, and thank you to Neil for sending it over. I just wanted to talk about it on the show and show you guys and let you know that they fixed the face. He might be making guest appearances from time to time now, seeing I have one on my desk and it's a toy I can use. But back to the raid.
Great Drifter impression, by the way.
Arg.
Nope.
Bring us more, eh?
Amazing.
He's a Canadian pirate.
He's Canadian?
He's a Canadian pirate.
I thought his impression was all right, to be honest.
Talking about the raid. First of all, just the raid, now that you've had a few weeks to do it with contest mode and without, I love this raid. I think it's one of my favorite raids in Destiny history. And honestly, I'm going against the grain here. I think day one contest mode was just about perfect. I really thought everything was excellent. I thought contest mode was challenging. More people were able to get through it than on average, but I think it's just a perfect sweet spot for amount of time to prepare. The fact that it launched on a weekend, and I really, really like solving those encounters for that first day. I got stuck on Atrix, and I figured out what happened with our team. Basically, we just, for some reason, when we get to the final encounter, we would just we have to shoot them all really fast. Like we just thought the puzzle changed and it just didn't.
Man.
And yeah, we just got stuck there. But anyway,
I felt real bad. I felt real bad for you guys on that because like when we finished the raid, not to gloat or anything, but when we finished the raid, we went back and looked at your stream and seen that you're still on 8 tracks. It's like, whew,
yeah,
it's rough.
Yeah.
But,
don't worry about it. It's fine. Travis, what are your thoughts on the raid?
Yeah, I am with you. I really, really liked it. First of all, shout out to my day one raid crew. We finished it after like 15 hours. The people on my team were Meatball, Serenade, Bendable, Gearda, Ramblin', and I'm probably forgetting somebody. They're going to get mad at me. But yeah, those people.
can't forget.
Yeah. Well, I told them to send me their info, but none of them did, so I'm going off of memory here. But anyway, it was a really solid raid team. We spent about 6 hours on 8 tracks and like 2 hours or 3 hours on the final boss, but the rest of it we sort of breezed through at a pretty normal click. And yeah, it was really, really good. I think my favorite part about that raid is that unlike other raids in Destiny, it's immediately obvious what the story is, right? It's got that arc of like going into space and then crashing down. And if you haven't done the raid yet, I guess I should say a spoiler warning because we're going to be talking about it. But that whole arc of going to space and crashing down and fighting Thanex, I thought all of that was just so well done. And I think understandable in a way that other raids were sort of vague, and you had to like look up afterward, like what were we actually doing when we were fighting the Taken King? You know, when we were fighting Oryx in his throne world, like what was that all about? This one, you really understand what it is, and then also the consequences once you beat the raid of, you know, the satellites crashing down onto Europa and all that stuff. I thought was just really, really awesome. So yeah, I agree that raid was awesome. The contest mode was perfect. We barely beat it by the skin of our teeth and felt so good about it. And then this last week, just a couple days ago, I redid it on Xbox with some people after contest mode, and we got through it in like 35 minutes with no wipes. And it was my second time ever playing it. It was ridiculous night and day. So shout out to DJ Oros and some people I played with on Xbox that ran through that raid again with me. But it was so weird playing it non-contest mode and just seeing how like laughably easy it was.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to my raid crew. Also, it was McCadley, Illegal, Anthony, Wint, and Zod. Wint went by something else in game, though. He did that thing where he changed his tag, but that's his Twitter tag. So, yeah, good call. Brian, how did you feel about everything?
First, I'll do the shout out since everybody's doing it to my raid team: Global, Teddy, Backwards, Learn, Law Dog, and of course myself. It took us about 13 hours, I think, to get through the raid before we completed it. I think a little over 13 hours. But I will, as far as impressions go, I'll start by saying that I know that it is the like best aesthetically looking raid that Bungie's ever made. Like, it's, you know, obviously go back into the spoiler territory, but Travis already ruined it anyways. Like just the cadence of like being shot into space and just going through this space station that Thanex eventually just crashes back down into Europa. It's just a really cool raid, and just having like Clovis Bray there, like sort of not really narrating it, but just being there to like trying to sabotage everything, while it's all going on is really awesome. All that said, there are plenty of folks that I have to agree with that day one raid was a bit easy, but that is probably also due to the fact that we've had so much more time than most other raids in Destiny history. But so a lot of people were able to just like do that grind, get there, and have that that time dedicated to it since it was on a weekend. So overall, I do think this is still my favorite raid that Bungie's ever put out. Just aesthetics alone.
Yeah. I disagree with the whole was it too easy thing, because everybody's saying like an average completion time of 12 to 15 hours is too easy. If that's the race, I don't want to be in the race anymore.
For real.
If that's
I totally get
too
that for sure,
easy, okay. Like
it's also just
make it for like the 100 streamers then who are gonna compete.
Yeah, I know.
I'll just wait till contest mode is off.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, is right. It's like the next raid, like I might think about doing that. Like I just say I say that I don't say it's too easy. I say it's a lot easier than past raids, because if we're looking at Last Wish as as the pinnacle of hard day one raiding, then everything else is just kind of pale in comparison. But you're right though. Like sitting around. I know that the fastest team did it like 5 or 6 hours.
Which is 5.5 or something.
Yeah. But sitting around for not sitting around, but being in a raid for about like 13, 14 hours, depending on how long you finish it, it's really rough. So it's like I can't guarantee that I'm going to do that again for the next raid unless it's Vault of Glass, because I think that is the next raid, assuming they don't change a whole bunch and make it really hard to get through that raid day one. I imagine not a whole lot will change, but I can't see a future where I participate in a raid race like this again. No offense to my raid team, because I think I told them that before and they felt personally attacked when I said that.
Well, me, you, Teddy, some of the other guys on your clan, and some of the guys that I raided with, we're all just kind of like, yeah, like, it's too much. Like, you got to do all this.
It's a lot.
The prep was totally fine, actually, and I think that's why the completion rate was so high, because so many people were easily able to get to 12:30. For contest mode, they waited 12 hours until there was like videos they could watch about how to finish each encounter, and then they just went and did it, So it's like, why did so many people complete it? Because there were guides out like the second it was beat, so you could just sleep in, wait, and then just go in and know how to exactly do every encounter and not do any of the puzzles. So I think it's a little of column A, where there's just too much information available. You know all the mechanics, you don't have to do the puzzle solving, so more people are able to complete it. And this is also like the 7th raid. I think I want to give Follow Up Plays a shout out, because I think he tackled this conversation with the most tact and information that I've ever seen. And I've been getting recommended his videos a lot, and I really, really like his content style. He's been on the show before. And he's just a really, really nice dude. He actually brought in data, and he sort of showed that more people completed this one than any other. And I like that context to his conversation. And so check out his video if you get a moment. But my thoughts on it are, this is exactly how I feel a contest mode raid should be. I am really happy with the difficulty level it was at. And sounds like panel's a little bit split, but that's fine.
Yeah, and if I could voice my opinion here, which is that I agree with Destin mostly, that I don't think it was too easy. I think that like we're already pretty elite in the world of Destiny. We spend a lot of time playing it, and like Brian, your team in particular that you were rolling with is the sweatiest of the sweat lords.
The
like
sweatiest
they are
of the sweat lords, man.
They are very sweaty, and the fact that it took you guys 13 hours
in what context? I'd like to hear what context. Well,
you guys
I know that, like in
PvP. Some of you guys, it's like it's very, very sweaty. I've played with your people. I know Backwards. I know Teddy. They're very sweaty players. To our discredit,
we did complete the raid, and like it took us more than double the time that the fastest team did it. So
yes,
there's room for improvement, is what I'm trying to say.
I agree, but my point is that if it takes you,
he's giving you a compliment. Just take the compliment, Ryan. Jeez,
I'm giving you a compliment.
Sometimes but sweaty is not a compliment.
All right. Well, some of the people on your team are sweaty in a good way, and some are sweaty in a sweaty way. So I'll put it that way. But my point is that like if it takes you guys 13 hours, you're going to be hard pressed to find like a normal group. I know really, really intense console players that weren't able to clear it because console has, they always have more trouble with these raids because of the like load times and that sort of stuff and some of the frames. Hopefully that's going to be resolved next week with the next gen updates. But my point is that like I beat it by the skin of my teeth after 15 hours. It was intense for me. It felt really good. I felt super rewarded from it. And I think that this was the perfect raid experience because they gave everybody time to level up. They told us what the power max was going to be. They didn't let other people who were using exploits to like power up their artifact and stuff get an unfair advantage on day one contests. They sort of leveled the playing field, and a whole bunch of people got to play it and experience it. And on day one, and I personally feel like on day one, that's not for streamers. Like, streamers are going to be there for the world first competition, but day one should be for everyone, because playing a raid on day one, it's really hard to find a group that's willing to do it blind after day one. And if you haven't already beaten the raid, then people will be like, oh, we don't want you in the group unless you've already beaten it, or unless you've watched a video and know all the encounters. And so your window to be able to enjoy a raid blind and not have people judge you or kick you out of the group is really limited. And I feel like it should be celebrated if more people get to experience it. It should be challenging enough to where people can fail. Like 2 out of the 3 on this panel succeeded. One of us didn't, and that we're sort of in the top tier of people who have the time to play this game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
exactly.
able to
So
do it on
one of us
day
didn't complete.
We went to sleep. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
then,
So I just think that people, obviously, I think the Last Wish was the most challenging, but I don't think it was challenging in a good way. I don't think that like Vault was particularly fun to get stuck on and having to like decipher a weird language for hours. I don't think that having the people be 30 power above you because you just couldn't reach that power level in time for the raid because we had like a 3-day turnaround that year, or was it more? I can't remember, but I just remember being under leveled for the encounter. I don't think that was good. So
by a larger
I think that some of the criticism is a little bit unfair, especially given how challenging contest mode was. And I don't know. I like to think that after 15 and a half hours with my group, I accomplished something and I got an emblem and none of my friends have it, which says to me that like it was pretty challenging. But yeah, obviously if it were Last Wish level challenging, there'd be like 8 people with the emblem, but I don't think that's a good thing, to be honest.
And one last thought on this, Travis, just sort of you talking it out brought this into my brain, but here's why I like it. It's still a grind that you have to work towards as a team to get. It still gives that competition to the people that were able to beat it in 6-7 hours, like streamers that are going for that world's first title. And that's absolutely great. And then once they cleared it, the 12-15 hour mark, that's where the average player was able to complete it, 12-15 hours after release. Or maybe they were in there for 12 or 15 hours. And I just think that's perfect. And yeah, that's it. Okay, moving on. We also have next gen updates on console and more coming next week. Iron Banner is coming. Who wrote cough in the run of show?
I did.
Not me. Had to be him.
I wrote
Why'd you
cough. Yeah, I wrote cough because Iron Banner, every time it comes up, we're always like, cool.
Well,
next topic.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing new, right? We already know the armor and the weapons are reskins. They didn't make any. They didn't put any new armor or any weapons in the loot pool, so it's just.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right,
Prophecy Dungeon's coming back next week.
Yes.
There was a Hawkmoon teaser leak that everybody's talking about right now, and yeah, that's all the updates. I'm excited about the next gen updates. 120 hertz in multiplayer, 60 FPS throughout the campaign. I think that is honestly perfect for Destiny. I think if you're running through campaign stuff, as long as you're going to hit 60 FPS, like that's great. That's going to be great for next gen players. You already have the bonus loading times, which are insanely fast, and I'm just excited to see what this does for multiplayer. And like you brought up, like raid day one competitions for those teams, they're not going to have to deal with slower loading times or less frames, fewer frames. How do you guys feel with the next gen tweaks? Good, right?
Personally, like it's gonna be great because I've said it before, but I feel a little snotty when I say like, I feel like a PC elitist because I'm like it's hard to go back because of 30 frames. So finally being able to because I do sometimes just want to like lay down in bed or just like plop down on the couch and grind out strikes or something in Destiny, and it's really hard to do that currently when you're going from like 100 plus frames on PC down to 30. So like having 60 frames or up to 120 in multiplayer is going to be a game changer in that regard. So I'll definitely be playing on console a lot more than I have been since PC launch. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is awesome. Like I said earlier, I don't know anybody on console personally who was able to beat the raid day one, so I'm excited to see if console becomes competitive again. Because I know some groups that really should have cleared it, and I'm sort of like, wow, is it really like that intense on console? And they're like, yeah, I don't know anybody who beat it. So just anecdotally,
I think some of the top people were console players. Actually,
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I'm just saying anecdotally, like the people that I assumed would have beaten it before me didn't, and that made me go like, "Whoa!" Like, is console like
But by the time we
still
were at
having
the final
issues?
encounter,
So-
they were just loading into the first one.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know there were definitely some issues. They said that like when they died, it was like 20-second waits, and that's
Oh,
like
that's rough.
yeah, that can be really bad. So yeah, but yeah, I'm excited for that. And then the other thing is, I know people who are saying that they're going to be playing on console exclusively for multiplayer because PC has the disadvantage of having a ton of cheaters, and the only advantage they've had is that they have better performance, and now they're sort of losing a lot of that. So I will
now
definitely
you
be
120,
playing.
which is sorry to interrupt you, but like that
Go ahead.
120
Yeah, no.
frames is just absolutely fantastic. You can play
Yep.
on console now. Call of Duty actually has keyboard and mouse support on console. That's like the best case scenario. You don't have the input latency or any of the stuff problems that Stadia have, which is why a lot of people were playing on Stadia for a while. That sounds awesome, but I just wanted to bolster your point a little there, Travis. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So I know personally, I tried to avoid playing PvP on PC in general. Because I'm kind of bad on it for some reason, and maybe because I'm not used to the extra frames yet. But yeah, also just because the cheaters. And so now it'll be cool to have some of my friends coming back to console to play PvP. And I think that console stands to become like the place that everybody does their PvP encounters. Because like, who wants to run trials if there's a chance that you're going to run into a cheater like 1 in 10 times? Like I don't like those odds, and it always sucked to ruin a trials card because of running into a group of hackers or whatever. So yeah, I'm very excited for what that could do for multiplayer in particular as a Crucible main.
If they had keyboard and mouse support, I will absolutely move the console for stuff like trials. At the bare minimum, you know, they already have the FOV slider and everything. Brian, would you do that?
I can't imagine they would allow mouse and keyboard on a console.
Call of Duty does.
No, well, I think
games
yes,
are adding
they
it.
do. They do, but can you go into a lobby where they're not using mouse and keyboard?
Yeah, usually. So
does it mix them? I know that's because that'd be crazy if they do.
Different games have different policies for it. Like in Sea of Thieves, it's sort of like all one ecosystem, and you can do mouse and keyboard and play with PC people and all that. In other games, they let you decide if you want to like not play with people that are mouse and keyboard. But for Destiny in particular, I mean, the PC ecosystem, you've already got people on controller and mouse and keyboard.
Because it's just like a personal preference. In there, but like console's a little different.
Teddy plays on controller, and he's awesome at PvP. So.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that.
Backwards.
I'm not saying that people with controller are worse than people who use keyboard, because I will get destroyed by anybody who's on my raid team in PvP if they're using controllers. So that's
I think it'll depend on if Bungie wants to actually spend the development time on it. They probably honestly have bigger fish to fry. And then also the platform owner, like Xbox has shown that they're very, very okay with people using mouse and keyboard. Lots of their games support it, so I could see them definitely doing it if Bungie were down. PlayStation, I'm not sure. I mean, I think Call of Duty you can do mouse and keyboard on PlayStation as well. So I think that would be totally fine. I don't know a lot of Xbox players or PlayStation players who would use it because we're playing on the couch and. That's not really a good environment.
And you got yourself a little like.
That's what I have. I actually have like a wireless lap thing. You go in your lap and it has like a thing for your mouse and
one of those coffee tables that you just like pull up and it comes towards you.
That's what I use. I have a fold out table and I just run my keyboard and mouse over there, and it's actually I've been playing on the 4K 8K TV or whatever right here, and it's kind of awesome. So yeah.
Cool.
The other thing you guys wanted to talk about was Season of the Hunt, which we've all done.
It's done. We did it.
That really surprised me. So I think we talked about 2 weeks ago when it first came out of like, oh yeah, the first week was really fun. I can't wait to see what other hunts we had. And I think I made the assumption that there would be additional hunts, and Brian was like, oh, I hope so too. That would be cool. And then apparently it's just the same 4 hunts over and over again, which really surprises me.
I have to imagine, and I still have to imagine that there's more, based solely on the fact that if you look at the Triumph page for the seal on the seal page, there's 19 total Triumphs and only 14 of them are available. Like five of them aren't even like visible. or maybe it's the other way around. 14 or 15 are available, but there's just some that are just not even there on the screen. So there's definitely something that we have yet to see in Season of the Hunt. But also at the same end, if you also look at those triumphs, they're very they don't really require a lot, right? It's like one of them is just like get 50 kills with the season pass weapons, and another triumph is get 50 kills with that same weapon, but like at close range. And it's just like, I feel like they just like, man, they really, yeah, it's like you've really just ran out of time, like ran out of ideas with the season of the triumph seal for this season. But yeah, like I have to imagine there's more. Otherwise, I think it's going to go down as a worse season than Undying with Shadowkeep, because Shadowkeep's if we're separating them, if we're separating them like we did with Shadowkeep and Undying, Season of the Hunt on its own is kind of like oof.
I compare it to Undying, actually. That's a good comparison. I don't think it's as bad as when we had to do the Seraph Towers, but I think Undying, sort of like the repetitiveness and monotonous of what they offered during that season. Yeah, the Vex Offensive. I think that's a good correlation to what we're experiencing. I think you hit it on the head.
I will say the one advantage this season has is I'm actually genuinely interested in the story part of it, and I think that it's super compelling in terms of the what's going on here and interacting with Uldren and Spider, and they've also done story developments. I don't know if you guys played this week, but when you complete all of your Uldren your 5 Uldren hunts this week, he has some additional dialogue that sort of advances the story of what's going on between him and Spider, which is really cool. So in terms of story, I think it's actually like one of the more compelling ones, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. It's just like they had such a cool thing, hunts, and there's 4 of them, and you have to just do them all over again every week, and I'm really confused. I'm also confused why none of the hunts are in Cosmodrome, because they added this new area that they didn't use during the campaign. Utilized. And I thought they were going to use it during the Season of the Hunt, since it wasn't really
what area is it added?
Nothing's going on in Cosmodrome.
Oh, you mean added Cosmodrome, and they added
they added the Cosmodrome, and I'm like, why aren't we doing hunts there?
I mean, I think maybe the problem with Season of Hunt is that it has such like a compelling story potential that is like hidden behind Beyond Light. Like the story of like Uldren and the Crow and like what happened to him is something that we've been like really looking forward to since Forsaken. So it seems a little weird, maybe counterintuitive to kind of just like bury it beneath Beyond Light and have it kind of just as a sideline when it's something that we've kind of like as a community have brought forward as like mainline because of how interesting like his arc is. That it being behind Beyond Light kind of just seems a little kind of sucks.
Yeah, for sure. Were there any other topics that you guys wanted to hit on this week? We went over quite a bit. Obviously, like my co-hosts know, but I have a pretty insane week this week, so I've been really busy. But was there anything that we missed that we wanted to discuss before we head out?
If we don't have to get too deep into it, but I think one thing we didn't hit on was like how much stuff unlocked after the raid was completed. Like
I think,
including the sword. We haven't
Empire
talked about
Hunts,
the exotic sword yet.
Exo Challenge, the sword, Cloud Strike, all of that stuff.
The Clovis stuff was fantastic.
Clovis stuff, the Eclipse Zone that rotates each week, which is really cool.
It's interesting what it does to the area, but there's not really.
It doesn't do a whole lot to the area. It just makes your stasis regens faster. But it's just like the amount of stuff that unlocked was really cool to see that, because it kind of it kind of gives you a new breath of Beyond Light, because like that first week we're kind of like, oh, there's not a whole lot going on here. Get the raid. Raid's really cool. Raid is beaten. Here's this bunch of other stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, and then the only thing that's concerning is like I looked at the roadmap earlier this week, and 11/17, the Season of the Hunt begins and Wrathborn hunts begin, and then there's nothing else
Iron
on the
Banner
roadmap.
And Dawning.
Yeah, it's Iron Banner and Dawning.
We got the Dawning. Is that not next week, but the week after, right?
Yeah, so we have
Dawning's coming up.
We have Hawkmoon on the way. Maybe there will be an exotic tied to that again, because they've done that in the past, but we'll see. But I do like your point, Brian. There was a lot of cool stuff after the raid, and I really appreciated that. Travis, did you like that?
I loved it. Yeah, that was really cool. I thought my review was going to be done after the raid, and then there was all this other stuff I had to grind the next day, so I ended up taking an extra day for that. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm loving the new exotic sword. I think Clovis Bray and the potential for him is maybe the pseudo villain, maybe pseudo ally, kind of in the same realm as like Varix and the Spider. I think that is really, really cool, and the role that he can play. And yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to bring up while we're here is Bungie's doing a charity drive right now. You get an emblem, a ghost shell if you donate money. You should check it out on their website. And also, it was in the TWAB this week. Opportunity to get some cosmetic items and to do some good. So I figured we should give that a shout out here.
Yeah, you can. Where can you find out more? I assume they're streaming on twitch.tv/Bungie.
Yep, yeah, and it's also on the TWAB this week. They have a link there to where you can donate and all that stuff. So
cool. Well, thank you guys for making the time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Let us know what you think about the raid difficulty. This has been a really, really interesting conversation throughout the community, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and see your conversation in the comments below. But that's it for this episode, everybody. So oh my God, I screwed up the intro. That's it for this episode, everybody. Until next time, Guardians
out.
Good job. Good job.